All right, aloha, friends, and welcome to the first episode of Game Time with the Goss, brought to you by GM Sports Media and Get Recruited websites. We want to make high school athletes feel like stars. Go check that out. Uh, with the softball playoffs around the corner, trying to look for my first guest ever, and I think it was an easy choice. My brother, the Chocolate Bear, Kenny Matthews with Friday Night Glory. How you doing, Kenny? And what do you think of the name?
I love the name. Thank you for having me on. I like that. Game time with the Goss.
Yeah,
I like that.
got a shout out to Kennedy Miller. She commented on my Facebook post as well as you did. A lot of people seem to like the Gossip Sports Minute. Then I started to think, it's longer than a minute.
It's
And
never.
back in the day in high school, people would call me Gossip, but you've started this trend where they just call me the Goss. So I figure I had to get that in there, and yeah, game time with the Goss.
And I'm trademarking it as soon as we get off this pod.
And I did like gossip's gossip or sports gossip with gossip, but gossip and gossip just sound so much alike. It's kind of confusing, but that one was really funny. But yeah, excited to have you
I
on.
like it.
Appreciate it. Like I said, softball playoffs around the corner. Still got last regular season games Friday and Saturday. There's still a lot of seedings to be determined.
Yes.
But yeah, you've been to a handful of games. Have you seen anyone so far this season that stands out and can make a deep playoff run?
Well, the team that I've seen personally would be Geyer. Obviously, they're absolutely loaded again this year. They just steamrolled through the regular season, going undefeated so far, kind of like Lake Ridge has. Medford's team, and maybe his most balanced team that he's had, in a long time this year. They don't hit the ball, maybe out of the park as much, but I mean, you look at you look at the 1 through 6. I mean, they're just putting up serious numbers. They got a lot in the top. I think they have 3 in the top area in hits this year. Peterson has played extremely well for them. I mean, I think that you have that experience too. That I think he's really loaded with experience this year, and I mean, they have. It seems like they get off the slow starts, maybe get down 1 or 2 runs, and it seems like it wakes them up. And the next thing you know, it's 9-2. So, I mean, I guess if Medford has anything he wants to see better, is maybe them getting off to better starts. But in a district that's really tough. I mean, Geyer's really dominated that district this year.
Yeah, Geyers locked up that district title and the number 1 seed. I know Allen, I think, looks like maybe their second seed, and then there's a couple other ones. Prosper's in the mix. Who else is there?
Well,
Rock.
it's Little Elm is clinched the 4th spot with Rock Hills lost on Monday night to McKinney Boyd. So now we've got Little Elm, you got Allen, and you have oh God,
Prosper's in the mix.
No, Prosper's not in the mix. It's gosh,
Okay.
I'm brain dead here. So you got Allen, Geyer, Allen, and I'm missing the 3rd team.
Yeah, I thought it might have been Prosper High Eagles, but
maybe it is. Let me just double check there. But yes, I was, in that district, it's, we really thought it was going to be kind of Geyer and everybody else fighting it out for 2nd and 3rd. We thought in that district, but I think Allen's had a really surprising this year. I mean, losing Sammy Hood last year and losing Alexa Telford the year before. I mean, Coach Shuttle's done an outstanding job with that group here this year, and they played extremely well. And only 2 losses to Geyer in district.
yeah, Geyer is still undefeated, 28-0, I think, 13-0 in district play. They're over there in 5-6A, and of course they start the first round. They still don't know who they're going to play. That 6-6A still a jumbo. Plano West and Flower Mound have locked up the 2 top seeds. And then you have 3 teams tied 7 and 6, Louisville, Hebron, and Marcus. And Marcus, who knows? Marcus might have been eliminated yesterday if they didn't win that walk-off grand slam from Alejandro. But yeah, 3 teams. Marcus, you would think, has the leg up. They play Plano East on Saturday, and then Louisville and Hebron play each other with the winner making the playoffs and potentially the loser missing out. So
Yeah, almost.
you've seen that district a couple times. What do you think?
Yeah, actually, almost a de facto playoff game come Saturday between Louisville and Hebron. Hebron, I mean, you really got to like the way that Hebron's battled back this year. I love Terrain, who was at the top of that order for them. She's an outstanding player. They've got good pitching, but Louisville, I mean, it all starts with Paisley Allen, that Georgia commit. She's at the top of that order. I mean, she's got wheels, she's got power. I mean, she's really, really good. And Vargas has pitched really well. I think she's kind of unheralded this year in the pitching ranks. When we talk about good pitchers in the area, nobody seems to talk about Vargas at all. And they're talking about, they're even missing known in there. Izzy Smith hasn't played for Louisville at all this year. And I mean, they've done extremely well, which is arguably one of the toughest districts in the state of Texas. If I was leaning towards somebody winning that game on Saturday between them, I would probably lean towards the Farmers to win that game. I know my Hebron brethren is going to kill me on that, but I think that they just have a little more hitting than Hebron does. Now watch Hebron go out there and shut them out 2-0.
Yeah, right. And yeah, Louisville kind of is in a good spot. Of course, if they win, they're in. And they can also get in if they lose and Marcus loses because they own the head-to-head with Marcus. If Hebron and Marcus ended up being tied, they'll have to figure something out as the season series is split. But I know you mentioned watching Hebron a couple weeks ago against Coppell. Lucy Crowder, right, looked good on the circle. Then you mentioned some hitters for Louisville with Allen at leadoff. We forget to mention some of the Geyer kids, but Avery Jefferson, right, is among
she's had a heck of a year.
A great leadoff hitter. It looks like they have maybe two or three pitchers in the circle. I think Finley Montgomery's on the top of that list too. But yeah,
you got one. You got the Willis kid, playing a lot of first base. You thought that she was going to be a mainstay in that pitching staff this year, and it's kind of it's a blessing in disguise, if you're Medford, because you don't have to pitch her as much. And I like I said, I think I'm not sure if they would reach the championship game or they've reached the first round in that at state between between Lake Region and Geyer. That would, I mean, I hope that it could be the championship game, but I'm not sure. I need to look at my brackets. But boy, what a game that would be.
Well, I mean, if they're defeated, they're not going to. They don't hook up the two top records, so.
That's right. That's right. Because they reseed. That's right. I forgot about that. Excellent, man. I know I'm way ahead of myself, but man, what a championship game that would be.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of Lake Ridge, I don't know if you've seen them at all. I've seen them a couple times, but obviously, bad taste in their mouth from last season, state finalists. But it's sort of they got rid of that bad taste. I mean, they're 31-0, right? They're number one at 6A. Just they lost some good kids, obviously, with every year, but man, they're still fast. The pitcher Avy Huang, who just as freshman last year, she looked like she's taken another step this season. But you would like to say Lake Ridge is favored in Region 2 and get back to state.
Well, and I think that the one thing you got to think that the bad taste that she's got from last year, losing the way that they did in the championship game with giving up, the walk in, winning run there. You think that would leave a bitter taste in it, but that's definitely a motivating factor for you next year. You get so close and you can almost taste that championship. Munoz hits the home run for them to tie it up. You felt like you gave that game away as opposed to them earning that. And so I think that now you always think that when you're 14 or 15 years old, you become 16, and next year there's a big growing up process. She's missing bats. She is not walking people. And it all starts at the top of that order, that Oklahoma State commit. I mean, Mia, good gosh. I mean, you guys, you brought it to my attention last year at state. You guys think she's the fastest player in the state? She might be.
Yeah, Tia Warsaw, Oklahoma State, center field. She had like 81 hits last season. But yeah, she's pretty fast. I mean, you ask Kevin Shelton, he'll even say that too, that Tia Warsap's the fastest in the state, but just not her. I mean, Paris Johnson, she had a ton of stolen bases last season. And then, they got some good contributors. Charlotte Poor is when Avery doesn't pitch, Scarlett's in the circle and she pitches well. She's hit a couple home runs in the last couple of weeks. Reagan Brannon from behind the plate, hell of a catcher there. Cassidy Chance, playing shortstop. McNeese State commit. I mean, this team is they graduated a few, but the bulk of their lineup is still there. And man, it's tough to get those outs.
And for them to be as hungry as they've been since the beginning of the year, I mean, they've been blowing out people from, it seems like game one on. I mean, you expect to have like a dud somewhere. It's
Yeah.
just baseball. You can't play great all the time. You think you'd get a bad hop here or, a bad umpired game, but man, they're putting their foot on the throttle this year. And I mean, you got to really love that, for the motivating factor to get back to state. Yes. And I mean, and I also wanted to say one of the things that Mia brings to the table that I think a lot of people take for granted is her defense at center field. I mean, last year at state, she put on a clinic on going down there and grabbing balls in the gap, taking base hits away they normally would be, playing a shallow center field. I mean, that's huge, especially in that level when you can only hold the team to 3 outs per inning.
Yeah, and they had a test last week against Mansfield Legacy. Legacy was actually up bottom of the 7th, and he actually comes up and hits the walk-off, turned to be an inside the park home run. But yeah, they're tough. They're going to be tough again, and I think they got to be favorite to go back to state. But you talk about Geyer. I mean, Geyer, you would think they're top there for Region 1, but man, that region, you're a diehard sports fan. 6A Region 1 is just loaded with the talent we have in DFW. Paso America has made it to the regional tournament last season, so they could very well get back there again. South Grand Prairie and then District 8 6A, looking pretty good. And
don't we always say that if you get out of Region 1 6A, you've earned it?
Yeah.
I mean, there's not a gimme. I mean, just think about the first round. The district they play in the first round. Generally you're going to be the district leader. You're going to be playing a Marcus, a Hebron, or a Louisville on the first round. I mean, hey, that's pretty tall order right there for a 4th seed in the first round.
Yeah. Geyer and Louisville might be a pretty fun matchup.
That would be a fun matchup there. Vargas going up there.
Yeah.
And like I said, I think Vargas is a very unheralded player. I mean, she's pitched really well. The game that I did with her against Marcus earlier this year, she had 13 strikeouts in that game. And, you didn't even, you look up and you say, wow, she's got 13 strikeouts. For me to say somebody's got a quiet 13 in 7 innings, it seems kind of strange to say that. But they just put up enough runs to play. They don't throw, and another thing is that I think Coach Porsche has done with them is they played extremely good defense this year. I think they have the least amount of errors in district going forward. I think the stat that I saw a week and a half ago. So anytime that you're playing good district and getting timely hitting and good pitching, you're going to be very good, and that's what Louisville has been so far.
Yeah, I mean, and you look at that region, Geyer leads District 5, Keller out of District 4. They're undefeated in district. I think they've won 16 or 17 games in a row. Sadie Beck pitching very well. Tarleton State commit. Salt Lake Carroll is second, and they can very well hit. Cameron Timmons is pitching well. Just the other week, they put up 19 runs and 23 hits or something like that. So you can't count them out. Again, Plano West and Flower Mound are leading District 6A. SGP again, District 8, and then the Richardson Eagles. You got to shout them out, I guess, with Molly probably watching or going to watch.
Yes.
They've secured their first district title in program history, and they're undefeated in district. That's a team. That's a team.
Well, hey, and you got a great game, I think, tomorrow in LD Bell and Trinity.
Oh yeah.
That's Trinity has played extremely well here on the second backside of the district play. I believe they're I think they're on a 6-game winning streak. I believe is what it is, either 5 or 6. Yeah. I mean, for a team that we weren't maybe expecting much, they have done some damage in district here, and that should be a festive atmosphere tomorrow out at LD Bell between Trinity and Bell. I mean,
for
can't
sure.
ask for much better than that.
For sure. I mean, you look at the bottom of District 6A with what's going on with those teams. I mean, District 36A, that'll give you a migraine. I mean, we could potentially see 4 district champs tied for first place, which I've never seen. I mean, you barely see three champs, but to have
Yeah.
4, I don't even want to think about the tiebreakers. I think Monday or Tuesday, if that happens, they should just have a 1-day tournament just to settle it on the field, right? So,
Flip a coin to see who plays who, and then just play it. Double header.
so I mean, I saw Bell. I think, I mean, Bell and Trinity are on a high right now. I saw Bell go into Weatherford on Weatherford
right.
senior night and win by 10 runs. Trinity came back with 3 runs in the 7th to walk off against Boswell.
Boswell.
And so, if Bell wins, they've locked up the district title all by themselves and the 1 seed. If Trinity wins, it's likely a 4-way tie. I do think Weatherford and Boswell are going to win Friday. If they're tied, Weatherford and Boswell are tied for 2nd and 3rd. They'll have to figure something out because they split the season series. But that's a crazy district. I mean, to have your 4th seed win 11 games, 10 games, 11 games, that's wild to me. But
it's called a strange year in softball, I think, a little bit. It seems like you have these districts that are really top heavy, but they're really competitive. It's really, and it seems like there's a big gap between 4 and 5 and say 6 and 7 and 8 in a lot of districts this year. And it's just, I guess it just steadies the amount of talent that we have in the DFW area now. Just think from when you came onto into the circuit, what, 8 years ago, I think it was, or 9 years ago that you came on, when Keller was in there, unbelievable run. You had about 5 or 6 teams that were really good, and then the rest were just about bunched up at the same. You couldn't really figure out who they were. That's not the case.
I think you have 20 teams. You never
it's unreal how the amount of talent. I mean, there's not much distance between the 4th place team and the 1st place team anymore.
Yeah.
And they're used.
Awesome. Once again, joined here with Kenny Matthews of Friday Night Glory. You mentioned just coming on, for me to come on 9 years ago or whatever it was. Do you remember the first time you heard of the Goss or that first game? I don't remember.
I was trying to think of that a few weeks ago, Goss, and I believe I'm gonna say that the first game that I could really remember was when we did the Whataburger tournament in basketball, when it was at the old out at North Richland Hills.
Yeah, Coliseum.
And we interviewed Tyrone Maxey, and the Garland, when he was at they came out there, and we interviewed him and Chris Harris. You and I, we did back-to-back on it. So that was pretty much the first time I remember we were putting 2 and 2 together. That's who Gossett is. Yeah, that's who it is. I saw him, at State, just a couple of weeks ago. So what is that? 6 years ago, at least? I'm thinking
6 or 7.
Yeah, it's got to be 6 or 7 at least. Yes. So, and then I knew you from the start. I knew you from the Star Telegram just from Twitter, but I hadn't really just known you personally yet. But yeah, I remember the tweets, because that's when I first kind of started getting involved with Twitter, kind of more heavily involved for my information.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been a while. Awesome. But I was thinking, because Keller I think one of your first assignments in softball at State was Keller's
softball season, 2015, and then they didn't make it to State. They lost to Louisville in the regional final. 2016 and 17 when they won back-to-back.
They lost to Plano, wasn't it? It was Plano. Didn't run. Okay, Louisville. Yeah, they lost to Plano, I believe. That was
15 against Mary Beth Gorsuch.
Okay.
And then 15, 16 they won, and 18 they lost in the regional final to Plano, and then 19 they lost at State against Katy.
Well, what's funny is that the second baseman, the shortstop that got the MVP in that game, I interviewed her from Plano. I saw her dad last weekend, and she's at, I want to say Trinity University or something of that nature she's playing. But he says, you interviewed my daughter way back then. I said, well, yes, Gossett and I were standing up there deep in the stands, standing the whole time, because remember it was so crowded there. We couldn't find a seat.
that was at Denton Ryan, yeah.
Yep, did right. Yep, like 100 degrees at first pitch.
Yeah.
Oh man, the
Again,
time is
again,
flown by.
again. This is game time with the Goss with
I love
Kenny
it, man.
Matthews, and yeah, I mean we just talked about 6A, but obviously 5A is loaded with Region 1 and 2. DFW Fast Pitch has Alito as the top seed, #1 ranking. Forney #2. You know, I wish we went out to that game, Alito and Forney, a
I
couple
do
weeks
too.
ago.
Ah,
An ending game, 2-0 for Alito, and that's
in
a game.
extra innings,
That's a
nonetheless.
matchup that could happen again down the road, possibly in the state semis. But what do you
Well,
think?
give kudos to both coaches for scheduling that game, in the middle of district. How many coaches would like to go on and take on that kind of animal, when your district's still going on? I mean, not many would. And so I want to give kudos to Coach Idle and for Coach Myers for just scheduling that game last couple of weeks ago. That's awesome.
I mean, how crazy is it that it just so happened to line up that way? Just like they both were on a bye for their district.
I mean, it seemed like the softball gods were really upon us, and just blessed us with that game. And then it goes extra innings, nonetheless. So they even give us extra softball with it.
Well, I got to see Alito on Wednesday, their senior night. And if you know Alito's story, they've gone to state back-to-back years. They were state finalists 2 years ago. Lost to Georgetown in the semis last season. Again, they graduated some big bats, but that team is still deep. Especially, I mean, it's probably the deepest rotation. I mean,
That's what I said.
you have Natalie Touche, who's going to Missouri. She's a senior. Then you have Brenly Gonzalez, who's a junior Oregon State commit, and now you have Taylor McKean, who's I believe a sophomore. She's thrown a couple no hitters. I mean, just pick your poison for that team.
It's an abundance of riches. I mean, it's on. Well, and let's kind of like with Lake Ridge, you got to think that Elu hasn't played their best at state the last 2 years. 2 years ago they had some errors early in that game that put them behind the hole. Last year they had a couple of mistakes on the base pass. They got clipped off, 2 or 3 runners on the base pass that maybe ran themselves out of innings. So if for me, it's up to Alito to actually play their best game when they get to Austin. They got to play their best when they get there. I think that they'll maybe have to go through Colleyville Heritage,
Yeah,
or type, in the second round this year. I think that'll be a big test for them. But I'm looking at them, boss, and I just don't see how they cannot make it back to Austin because of the pitching depth.
yeah, yeah. Colleyville Heritage and District 7, Argyle, Richland. You know, they could very well face any of those teams. I think
And Met Grapevine might be a tough out, as a 4 seed. They beat Argyle the other night.
I think they won't meet to the regional finals if they both reach that far. But Burleson Centennial out of District 8, they went to the regional semis last season, and they didn't have a single senior. They didn't graduate anyone, and they're back. And that's a team that can really hit the ball. Bailey Lindemuth, Texas Tech junior, from the circle, she can home runs, all that stuff. She had 19 last year, like 76 RBIs.
I have to give you credit. You were on them. You were on them last year, way before most of us media people were. So I have to give you props.
Well,
You kind of.
you don't even know where Burleson is, so
And if I watch the Hatchie,
yeah. Well, I mean, I don't really only know Centennial because Keith Barnes, he always gives me the inside scoop, I guess. But
hey, speaking of Waxahachie, nobody's talked about them either, and they've had a phenomenal year so far too. So I think
yeah,
I have them ranked in fifth in there. I think I have them ranked fifth in the DFW on my
they
poll
finished.
this week.
They're going to be probably the second seed out of District 11. So I think their only 2 losses were against Lake Ridge, and everyone's losing to Lake Ridge. So
No shame there.
yeah,
No
I do like
shame.
Centennial's chances to make a deep run. Alito, after that, I mean, you got to watch. There's teams that should be on your radar, right? The Colleyvilles, Argyles, Grapevine, Richland, Northwest with Abby Young. They could make a deep run.
Melissa.
Yeah, Melissa in Region 2.
Mm-hmm.
Joshua and Burleson out of District 8. They have really good pitching. But yeah,
I really like Crabtree and Star and
that region 2. Forney is obviously at the top, but you can't discount Melissa. You can't discount, Lone Star, Wakeland, who I think you saw earlier this
Yeah, I
year.
saw both of them. Yeah, Southern. I really like their. I really like. I mean, Lone Star's. Wakeland's only lost one. I think they lost one game. I think it was to Lone Star. On the day before Good Friday.
Yeah.
They had their senior night. They wrapped up the district on this past um, either Monday or Tuesday. I keep forgetting that some teams played Monday and some teams played Tuesday this week. But yeah, I mean, Wakeland is one of those teams that I think that we don't talk about them a lot. And they got the Shriner kid over there that's hitting the ball for them. They've got the
Got Kate Pisker.
Kate Pisker. I was going to say, or Kate Pisker. I mean, she's what, University of Houston.
I can't.
I thought it was University, but yeah, I mean, Kate Pisker. I mean, they got a nice little scrappy hitting team there, where they're going to be extremely tough out. They really are.
Yeah, and Lone Star, right? I mean, they both were district champs. They're tied, I think, for the district championship. Um, Frisco Reedy with Michaela Cox, who's
Cox. Yeah.
she's put together just an incredible 4-year career and going to Tarleton State.
And I think the Colony's got the fourth spot, I believe, in that district.
I think that's right. Yeah.
I think it's the Colony's got fourth, but I mean, I think that they also have to win
Yeah.
to make sure that they keep the fourth spot.
Right.
They play Saturday too. Let me see what that the Saturday schedule is for
And
them.
you can't forget Frisco Heritage. I think they only have one loss. I mean, Jensen Hall, I think she's got maybe the most strikeouts in DFWs. And they can hit too, so they might make a deep playoff run.
Yeah, they might. Doing the Colony's got a tough one. They play Wakeland.
Yeah.
They play Wakeland. So let me see what the standings is on that. Standings, full standings. All right, you got Wakeland at 12-1. You got Lone Star 10-3. You got Reedy 9-4, and the Colony 9-4. So, and then it's Creekview is the 15. So, the Colony's clinched the fourth spot.
Yeah.
For them. Hey, if you're the Colony, you want to take on Wakeland at Wakeland. It's kind of a precursor to what you're going to be seeing in the playoffs because most of the rest of the games now are going to be against good softball teams. So you kind of like this. I know that. I know the Colony is not where they've kind of been the last couple of years, but they've really been a scrappy bunch in this tough district because I think it's been a tough district. But I have to give you props to this. I have to give props to this. Carrollton Creek played really well down the backside of this district here. Yeah, I mean, I know we don't think the Carrollton Creek is a very good softball program, but I mean, they beat the Colony last week. They played the tough teams here down the stretch here. You've got to be really pleased if you're Carrollton Creek to the way that they played down the stretch. Even though they're not going to make the playoffs, but they've made this district really tough on the teams that are in the playoffs.
Yeah, I think Richardson and District 8, District 7-6A, just sort of this having an incredible year, and hopefully they're this underdog that makes it 2-3 rounds deep. Then you look in 5A Region 2, and you got to look at North Mesquite, who's just putting up some big time runs, right? I mean, but they're in the same. They're sort of in the same boat. They're having these incredible years, district champs. Their districts aren't, that tough really, and so once they start to play some of these top teams, how are they going to fare? But
and I think that what's going to be the problem is that they're going to be facing good pitching. They've feasted on very mediocre pitching for majority of the year, and then when you get to the playoffs, you and I both know it's all about what goes on that rubber, in that circle right there. And I think that that's going to be very much surprise for those the Mesquite when they start seeing the spin and the speed of really good pitchers. But you do got to root for them because I mean they've had outstanding room. I mean they've getting some pub a little bit here locally from the Dallas Morning News and other kind of media outlets, and it's been a good run for them. I hope it's not over soon, but yes, you know what you need to do. You're supposed to do that. If it's mediocre pitching, you're supposed to hammer mediocre pitching, and that's what both of those teams are doing.
Well, we're gonna have to wrap up. I just want to mention, again, 4A Region 1 and Region 2. There's some really good teams as well. Grandview in 3A Region 3. They're the #1 team in the state in 3A. I believe they're 28-1. They just beat West back-to-back games to clinch the district title.
Clinch. Mhm.
And they can hit too. I mean, and they have two good pitchers in Caden Blackman and Matty Doty's a freshman who won a gold medal for the under 15 national team. So I'm gonna try and
Not
get
bad.
an interview with her and the coach there. But that's a team that you should watch out for. Try to get over that hump and win a state title in 3A. Is there anyone else that sort of is under our radar?
Well, that's a good question there. I mean, I would like to say, the job that our friend has done over at Prosper. I mean, considering the fact of what they graduated just last year alone, the talent off that roster, and for them to be in the playoffs this year is pretty dang on good. Especially considering the fact that Rock Hill took some of their talent away 2 years ago. Now we got a new Prosper ID that's going to open up next year. It's going to take some more talent away from them. So, Miss Baird's done a really, really solid job of just keeping those people, keeping them above water while they were struggling early. And now you're third place in one of the toughest districts in the state. So be interested to see what they do in the playoffs.
Awesome. Well, again, that's Kenny Matthews with Friday Night Glory. I appreciate it. It's an exciting time when the playoffs start. Thanks again for joining me on my the first episode of Game Time with the Goss. Please consider checking us out and follow us. So we'll have more videos and interviews. Again, it's
And you
all
need to
brought
put
to you
your,
by GM Sports
you need to put
Media
your,
and Get Recruited websites. They
yeah,
make
that's what
high
I said.
school
Yes,
athletes feel like stars, so go check them out as well. But appreciate it, brother, and we'll see you down the road.
always, man. Always a pleasure, man, to be the first guy on the Goss. Yes, I love it.
Awesome. Take care,
It
brother.
was fun, man. We'll be seated. I will be. Oh, just a plug. I will be at the LD Bell Trinity game tomorrow. So I will be there. So my man Randy Swain, and I
Yeah,
get to see Tia Mitchell. So yes, I'm looking forward to being there, and I'm really looking forward because I just know the atmosphere is going to be great. So it's going to be nice to have on a Friday night. So
awesome. We'll follow your updates.
all righty,
All right. Thanks, brother.
man. Thank you, man. Appreciate it.